Warrior, let's get to it. This is Monday, August 5th, 2024. I just got off of a red eye from the state of California, so excuse, I might be a little raspy in my voice, but I felt it very necessary to run right to the computer when I got home because so many disturbing things have occurred and I have thoughts on my mind, and certainly sitting on an airplane for 5+ hours, I had a lot of thinking I could do, and indeed I did. It is time to take the gloves off. It is time to get vicious. Now, we at the Warriors are always peaceful warriors, but you know what? With everything going on, I want to direct you appropriately with how are we going to protect our children, because things I am being presented with, seeing, hearing, inundated with, time to take the gloves off. Time to get vicious. Time to protect our children, our families, and all of us. In this election year, I normally say to you, I don't want to get political. How can you not get political? With so much going on, I was in the great state of California. California is a beautiful state. I'm going to leave it at that, politics aside. And I know it's a little bit of a, I say politics, no politics. I'm a little bit of a mishmash about everything, but we have a lot of warriors work to do across the country. I was on the California-Mexico border and all over the place. And I want to point out a couple of things about California. California, their number 2 crime is human trafficking. It's their biggest moneymaker, second biggest. It's always up for grabs between drug trafficking, human trafficking, which is a combination of sex, labor trafficking. Those are the 2 prominent ones. What's bigger? We don't really know. Let's just say they're all bad. I think we can all agree on that. And why? You might say, why California? First of all, we've got the border. Got to keep talking about this border. Well, if I was in Washington every day, I'd be marching up and down in front of that Capitol, in front of that White House, saying border, 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 because that border wheel with all those spokes leads to so much crime, trafficking, abuse, fentanyl, weapons, trendy Aragua, which I've been talking about, now is becoming a little bit more mainstream. I see them covering it. Vicious, violent gang that will rape your children. That is a headline I'm quoting that I read yesterday. And that is exactly what they will do. They have no regard for human life. They have no regard for Americans. They are from the prison system in Venezuela. They run the roost. They have set up their headquarters right across on the Mexican side, but right across from El Paso, Texas. So they are here to stay. We already know, and if you listen to the Warriors, they have infiltrated. They are working in all 50 of our United States. How did that happen? How was that allowed? We know that they are working hand in hand with MS-13, that criminal gang, which has been here, at least in my home state of New York, for about 13, 14 years that I know about. They have now come together, a nice tidy team, to abuse all of us, the Americans, and our children and our families, and it's not going to be on our watch. So when I say take off the gloves, time to get vicious, time to understand a few things. I want to get back to California. So now we have San Diego, which is very large. Recently, maybe you saw this story, a Comic-Con, just last week, July 25th through 27th, there was a huge human trafficking bust. Remember, wherever the kids are, wherever there are large groups of people, that is where you're going to have sex trafficking, labor trafficking, forced servitude. Yes, in the United States, a lot of vulnerable kids are working in homes as servants, slaves. No other way to put it. So Comic-Con, it was law enforcement coming together with the FBI, and they did make 14 arrests. They did save 10 people, including a minor. That's great news. But I'm sure there were more people going on there, with the trafficking, because they fly kids in, they fly people in. And that brings me to my next tidbit. And that tidbit would be that Who bears the responsibility for all of this trafficking? Because I dare say, when I just said to you, we fly in, they fly in to these large sporting events, Comic Cons, music festivals. That means there are airlines. That means they come in on trains and buses. That means they're using, Ubers and Lyfts and all the ride shares, and people are seeing things. I've spoken about this before, right? Then there's the hotels and the motels and the Airbnbs, and they're seeing things and hearing things, right? Well, as of July 2022, every transportation hub was supposed to be carrying signage in their bathrooms as far as the human trafficking, the national hotline. If you're a victim of trafficking I've seen them all over the country in Spanish, English, Chinese, and it occurred to me, sorry, I'm just a little bit tired from the red eye. That had a 2-hour delay, everybody, because they couldn't find the qualified pilot to fly this particular plane. They announced that with the bad weather all over the United States, it was throwing everything off track. But that's a separate story for a separate time. And I know, I remember, okay, that means bus stations are supposed to have this sign. Train stations, truck stops, I believe. Anywhere there's transportation. And I got to thinking, I've seen them around over the last 2 years or so. It was about 2 years ago, July, this became legislation. I didn't see them, and I've seen them before, in the San Diego International Airport. So I did a little poll. So if you go on our community poll right here on the channel, you will see. I would like your answer to this, because I want to get back on this, because I did see them in the airport, and now I don't see them in the airport. Why would you even take it down? But you might say a lot of victims, one of the things is they don't identify as a victim of human trafficking, right? Or they're scared, the person, male or female, or child. They don't know to reach out to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. They may not have money with them. They may not have a phone. How are they going to be in a bathroom and then get to a phone? It's very complicated. So we need, in my opinion, and I'll be working on this, some sort of better signage where they could alert another individual. Because when I came through that airport, John F. Kennedy International, early this morning, it was packed to the gills. When I got off that plane, walking through to get my luggage, tons of people, families, everybody, so early in the morning. So there are lots of people in the airport. So if we had a better system, not just the National Human Trafficking Hotline, because again, victims scared, they don't identify, they may not speak the language, recognize anything. So scared they might not see a sign on the wall, and then again they have to call. It's too complicated. We need a signal, right? But we need to educate and train the public. So when I say take the gloves off, I am begging you and urging you. We are at a national crisis level and have been, and only getting worse. We have to stamp this out, intervene, prevent as much as we can, because our government is doing next to nothing, in my opinion. Our government is wasting resources. Our government is a lot of talk, little action, no follow-through. There's a little bit of follow-through, but not enough. And I'm very concerned when that's the sign on a wall. How is somebody supposed to do anything? And then what do? You call that number, perhaps, and nobody answers, the National Human Trafficking Hotline. My suggestion to you, actually not my suggestion, what I'm asking you to do, is you immediately, with your phone, call 911, and you're at the airport. You then proceed to one of the counters right there in the airport, because they are trained, and tell them you think you're not held responsible if you make a mistake. The indicators are somebody who it doesn't look right. It's your gut. It's somebody who looks disheveled, perhaps. It's somebody who's not carrying a purse, a backpack, again, scared. It's somebody a woman, because a lot of women will go into the bathrooms with these girls and standing over them. Somebody who's not communicating, talking, making eye contact. You will not be judged if you are wrong. If you think something, report it. Better to be safe than sorry. So I want to get something into a hand signal, perhaps. People immediately report at the counter, something. because those signs, which I did not see posted this time, again, please go to our community poll and let me know while you've been traveling this summer. Have you seen these signs? Because why would they take them down? They're better than nothing. At least for the layperson seeing it, it'll say human trafficking. Then we can open the conversation, or maybe that person will research it and understand. So we had the Comic-Con, right? Again, proof that wherever there is a large gathering that we will have, and this Comic-Con is believed over 130,000 people gathered, and 80% of the victims in San Diego, 80 to 85% of victims are, and not only just at Comic-Con, but in San Diego, are kids, young people from the United States. They're not from other places. That's a large number. Most cases are of, they always say like the average age is 14 to 16, but we know, and I don't know why studies can't reflect this, except we don't have up-to-date studies. It's getting younger and younger. I know that San Diego is consistently in the top 5 cities for human trafficking. And why I'm saying take the gloves off and we have to get vicious is, because I pound my head against the wall. People believe in UFOs and they want to talk about that, discuss it, much more than they want to discuss this human trafficking, this forced exploitation, this slavery of American children. And don't get me started about the border and those unaccompanied minors, because that is a human rights abuse. And, I don't know why that's allowed to go on. You better think about that when you go to vote. That is all I'll say about that. And you have to also understand a lot of these kids that are ensnared in this trafficking are from foster and group homes, which that whole model needs to be blown up. It's a waste of money. They are re-victimized, re-traumatized, re-trafficked. That is what is reported to me consistently when I work with people who have gone through the system, or kids or youth. So these predators are very, very smart. Now, what I want to also talk about is that why I said gloves off, okay, and why I said it's time to get vicious. I was sent a report that, let's see how I can word this. Well, there's really no nice way to put it. That AI, artificial intelligence, some of the most requested things that have been intercepted, I'll leave it at that, online, and report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, are categories, and I put out what is called a trigger warning, sound the alarm, this is ugly, this is disgusting. How can people think these things? And I can't even tell you the worst of the worst in this report because I just can't bring myself to say these things. It's tough enough to read them. I am a warrior that works harder. The worse it is, I am somehow, by the grace of God, able to forge ahead and be angry and turn that anger into power to help. But there are times when I stop in my tracks, such as I did with this report, and I get physically ill to my stomach. It took all my strength to get home from the airport and rush to this computer because I wanted to share a few thoughts, frankly, before I pass out. This report, I'll try to give you some that are pretty easy, although none of this is easy. What men are looking for, they are looking for in their AI, artificial intelligence world, that they want created, okay? So it's not even real children, what they want created. 6-year-old girl, naked, beaten to a pulp in a grungy basement, whipped with chains, and filmed for their pleasure. Little girl having sex with a horse. Another one is, and I beg your forgiveness, this is the reality. You got to go with the reality in 2024 because it's all slipping away, everybody, and we have to take it back. Where can I get a newborn baby girl? Where can I get a newborn child I can kill? Tape, videotape, sell. I stop in my tracks, and the list goes on and on and on. Who is thinking these sick things? And then we have the platforms that sponsor. As a matter of fact, our colleague, Lila Micklewade, has a brand new book, Takedown. And she has been a crusader against Pornhub and its 100 different companies. Again, we'll have to do a separate interview with Lila and review what's going on. But just today, there's a whole synopsis of this in USA Today. It's New York Times bestseller already. How she went after realizing that videos of children were and are loaded onto Pornhub, and that those are the most requested videos. So people do this for money. So now, as I was sitting and waiting in the airport with my 2-hour delay, I look at children. We already know 1, 2, 3, 4, that little girl is abused. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that little boy is abused. Incredible, incredible numbers. The perversion. We're not going to do this on our watch, warriors. Where are all the feminists who take to the streets and stand up for women and girls? There are boys and men too. We need the men to step up and talk about why teenage boys 14 to 17 are the prime victims of sextortion. And instead of coming to us and saying, I got a creep bothering me online, threatening me, they kill themselves. We have to be that warrior. We have to take the responsibility. We have to stop these criminals. We have to interact. We have to open our eyes and stop with the nonsense with the Jennifer Lopez and the Ben Affleck and the Paris Hilton. And that's all well, good, and fine. But in the meantime, these influencers, these different people, and not them in particular, I'm just using them as an example because those stories get loads of traffic and lots of people reading them and sharing them. But when we talk about sextortion, or where are the signs in the airports, or large events, the predators are flying in, and who bears that responsibility? I think every hotel and motel, transportation has to do their best. And I know there's training, but I also know there's a lot of lawsuits. For instance, with hotels, we just went through the whole Red Roof lawsuits. And yet I'm in meetings where they talk about the great hotel work in identifying human trafficking. Well, they were forced a few years ago through lawsuits of turning a blind eye to victims to start getting involved because everybody's on the end of a dollar. So don't let your child or yourself be next. I have a little bit of homework for you. Again, please go to our community poll and vote. I'm curious if you're seeing the signs. Remember the signs, not necessarily about that human trafficking number, but the word human trafficking, right? I would prefer to we have slavery in the United States. Do you know this? I want it to be blatant. I want to take those gloves off. I want to start getting vicious because you know what? The criminals, the creeps, the monsters are getting vicious with our children, have been getting vicious, and they're getting away with it. And it seems like everybody's allowing it. From the government, big tech holds no responsibility. It's getting worse and worse each day. So join me. Let us come together. It's the beginning of the week. Our hashtag here at The Warriors is Community Creates Change. You can do that by joining us, sharing the videos, sharing tweets, Facebook, Instagram, whatever the postings are to raise awareness. By donating, absolutely, we need monies to go into our education program where we go around and teach digital safety, raising awareness, and also we support survivors. They need money to live. It's not good enough to slap a Band-Aid on somebody and give them a bed for 30 days. It is an ongoing traumatic process where food is needed, medicine is needed, co-pays, transportation, clothes. They may have children, need things for their children. Back to school time is coming. Backpacks, school supplies. I mean, these days, if you go to public school, the parents are responsible for all the school supplies and this and that. And you know what? That could be $150, $200 easily. So we help at The Warriors with so many things like that. We also feed communities. We don't talk about everything. We don't put things on Facebook for clicks and likes. Do what you can to help us. Full steam ahead, 2024. This election, vote for who will do best for your children. Just think about what I'm saying. And I leave you with the thought that I will always stand by this thought because I was there in the White House, and Donald John Trump did do a lot for human trafficking, despite all the naysayers out there, the deniers, people getting in my face, telling me no, 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 because I was there. So I saw it. So I know checks were cut to groups, organizations, individuals that never received funding before. Because, in Washington, they like to take a list because they're lazy and just check off boxes. No room for new people. But I did see it with Donald John Trump. So think about all that. He doesn't want open borders. He doesn't want sex trafficking of our children. We have rape trees on the border. I mean, who's talking about that? I don't hear Kamala Harris or any of the women. Nobody's talking about that, but we are here at the Warriors. Understand, I don't want to shock you, but I have to. Time to take off the gloves and become vicious, because it is about our children and our families and the United States of America. So join us. Thank you for all of your attention. Thank you for listening to this. Be one with us. Remember, each and every day, go out and be a warrior.